Saturday football does not disappoint in the Premier League. Bournemouth absolutely hammer Newcastle at home in their own back garden. Liverpool get not one but two goals in the dying minutes of the game to get 3 points at Brentford, and Arsenal throw away a 2-goal lead to draw 2-2 to Aston Villa. So of course, here's my Premier League roundup for the day. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Let me know down below if you're enjoying these kind of videos. Now, starting off with none other than Liverpool's trip to Brentford. Listen, Brentford took points off Man City in the midweek game, scoring a late-minute equaliser. But this time round, it was Liverpool that went up in the dying minutes of the game. And you know, guys, football is so funny. I feel like it's scripted sometimes because Darwin Nunez has gone 2.5 months without a Premier League goal, and then he comes off the bench to score not one but 2 goals in 2 minutes in the dying minutes of the game to win it for Liverpool. And I think that fans, especially Liverpool fans, will come back to this decisive game in January at the end of the season if Liverpool do go on to win the title. This is a decisive game for them to pick up 3 points away from home against Brentford, similar to Nottingham Forest in elements, I feel like, in terms of the low block. You see right here, Liverpool had to put 3, 4, 5 guys against the low block where the entire team is behind the ball. That is something difficult to break down. Mohamed Salah was creating chances. He created the most chances in the game. But in the first half in particular, I feel like with Luis Diaz up top, I'm not going to lie, guys, Darwin Nunez saved the day for Liverpool, right? But when Luis Diaz was starting up top for Liverpool, I couldn't imagine. I was questioning, how do Liverpool fans feel that they have a wide player playing as a 9 just because their 70 million signing number 9 cannot play as a striker for them? I know he's been linked to potential moves, and like I said, football is scripted sometimes, because just midweek I saw that he was reportedly linked to a move to Saudi, and suddenly he comes on to score not once, like I said, but in terms of the entire game, because of course everybody's going to focus on those 2 goals scored in the dying minutes of the game. But Brentford actually had quite a few chances, but I felt like if they could be clinical in front of goal, it would have been a different story. Virgil van Dijk had to do a lot more defending and a lot more covering than usual, especially in the wide channels, covering for Simicast, Konate covering for Trent Alexander-Arnold, and even Van Dijk covering for Konate at some points during the game. The most distinctive thing that I saw from Brentford in the first half in particular was that kind of long-range switch from the left side to the right side to allow Mbeumo to be 1v1 against Simicast. They done it multiple times. Nothing kind of came from it because they didn't score, but they did have some threatening moments, and I think Simicast actually ended up coming off for Andy Robertson and Mbeumo in particular. Because of that front line with Brentford, I feel like it's such an interchangeable front line. You can see Wissa going out to the wide channels. You can see Mbeumo darting through the middle, especially on potential counters that they made the wrong decisions more than once, and I'm sure Brentford will kind of kick themselves for that, because like I said, for 90 minutes or so of the game, they were definitely in it. Defensively, they didn't really put a foot wrong. I feel like Lewis Potter coming up against Mohamed Salah was forcing him to come in a lot more central, and rather than occupying them wide channels, Salah was coming in a lot more central, trying to create something, and he did create a few chances that Luis Diaz just couldn't put away, and nor could Gakpo. And I can imagine how frustrated Liverpool fans could feel in terms of watching that. A special mention to Gravenberch, because every time I watch him for Liverpool, I'm like, wow, this guy's a phenomenal player. In particular this season, the season that he's having, the way that he was when I watch Brentford, guys, especially today against Liverpool, I feel like their team was going from a high press to a low block quite often. And as a midfielder, especially for Gravenberch, you have to be mobile, be agile, be able to get up and down the pitch consistently when a team is going from a high press to a low block in defensive transition. Here's an example, right? You see right here, Alisson has the ball. This goal kick took about, not this goal kick, but playing out from the back, it took about 15 seconds before Alisson actually played a pass, and it ended up going out to the right-hand side, bounced over Mohamed Salah, and it went out for a throw-in. And Thomas Frank, he was on the touchline applauding, because that's exactly what Brentford can do. They press, or maybe not fully commit to a press, but they occupy the passing lanes in terms of playing out for the back for the opponent, which will force them to go long. And if there is a second ball that the opponent can win in this time, in this specific place, Liverpool winning a second ball, then they transition into that low block. And watching Gravenberch, because he's so mobile, because he's so agile, he's able to get up and down the pitch, he's got long legs. When I watch him, I feel like he's gliding. A lot of the time when I watch him, I feel like he's gliding up and down the pitch. But of course, everyone's going to talk about the Darwin Nunez 2 goals. But I don't think it should go under the radar in terms of the fact that I feel like for the best parts of the game, Brentford were in it. And like I said, any other day, you're more clinical in front of goal, you can put those chances away. Defensively, I don't think Liverpool, that backline, that back four and Alisson was as maybe strong as maybe what Liverpool fans are used to. Tsimikas, I don't think that he was any different from what Robertson offers on that left-hand side. And I know Liverpool could be in the market for a new left-back. Trent vacating that right-hand side quite a lot, going in central, trying to create opportunities. But the thing that changed the game for me was that Harvey Elliott substitution. In the first half, I felt like when Liverpool were creating chances, in terms of their shot production and the opportunities in front of goal, I felt like Szoboszlai really kind of took that on his shoulders and was trying to create something. A great shot that I think it hits the bar or it hit the crossbar and it went out for a corner. But when Harvey Elliott came on, guys, watch both of the goals that Liverpool actually score. It has a Harvey Elliott contribution in there somewhere, and it's just patience. I feel like it just spells out patience. You see that first goal that Darwin Nunez gets, the ball falls to Harvey Elliott outside of the box in that kind of threatening moment where Brentford are playing with a low block and they've got about 6-7 players in the box, and he just patiently waits for that little 1-2 with Trent and plays the pass outside of the boot, right weight on the ball to Trent. Trent gets a lucky block, I think, to get the second chance across the goal, and he does that and puts it on a plate for Darwin Nunez. And then the second goal is just a classic Premier League counter-attack, but this time Harvey Elliott being patient, and he's got one player to the right of him, one player to the left of him, and he goes for the player to the left of him, because I felt like the player on the right was the more obvious one. I really feel like it was the more obvious one. So he held onto the ball just slightly longer than maybe what people anticipated, and then played that pass to Darwin Nunez, who just hammers it in. Of course, Darwin Nunez is going to steal the headlines, and rightfully so. He scored the 2 goals. But I don't think Harvey Elliott's involvement in those 2 goals should really go under the radar. Now, whilst I was watching the goal, but just before, obviously, that opening goal for Liverpool that essentially won the game for them, I was thinking that front line needs to carry the slack when players like Mohamed Salah, who has been phenomenal for Liverpool this season, when he's not in goal-scoring flying form, they need to pick up the weight. And Darwin Nunez is kind of a testament to that today. He came on. I don't think anyone really anticipated that he would probably go on to score. I don't think he would, honestly, because I saw him miss a chance or two before that moment. But I watched Gakpo throughout the game. I watched Luis Diaz playing through the 9, and particularly just with Darwin Nunez. Here's a screenshot here, just before. This is way before he actually scored. This is when I think after 5 or so minutes of him being on the pitch. But I was watching this and thinking, why as a number 9 are you kind of floating out either wide? Are you floating out to the edge of the box? You have come on in this particular instance, I think, to be the target man. I felt like Liverpool were putting crosses into the box before Darwin Nunez came on, and there wasn't really anyone to get onto the end of it. So when Darwin Nunez came on, I was thinking, okay, he's going to be the target guy, slap him in the middle of the box and get the deliveries in, and if he can't win the aerial duels, then maybe someone can win the second chance, the clearance, the headed clearance, etc, etc. So that is one thing that I noticed, and I feel like as the time went on and as the game went on, maybe it was instructed to him to just stay in the middle of the box, because he stopped kind of drifting out wide, trying to link up with the play and get involved in the play and just be a number 9. That was the thing that kind of stood out to me the most. I feel like maybe Brentford might feel like they were hard done in terms of leaking 2 goals in 2 minutes in such quick succession to Darwin Nunez and Liverpool, and maybe they might have felt like they could have held on to get a draw. But the title race is really starting to heat up as well. Liverpool getting 3 points away from home at Brentford. Listen, Brentford is not an easy place to go to. I don't think it's an easy place to go to away from home, especially for Liverpool coming back off dropping points against Forest midweek. So this is 3 big points for them in this title race. Probably the most entertaining game that I've watched today so far, and there's so much football on. Newcastle versus Bournemouth scores 3 goals at St James's Park when his father only scored 1. I'm telling you guys, football is all about stories. Patrick Kluivert only scored 1 goal in his time at Newcastle at St James's Park, and then his son goes and scores a hat-trick. By the way, that's his 2nd hat-trick of the season. Of course, the first hat-trick he scored was a hat-trick of penalties, but this one was just an array of finishes, especially that 3rd goal. And of course, a lot of credit is going to go to Kluivert, and rightfully so, and just that front line. But Iraola, what he's doing with Bournemouth is nothing less than phenomenal. In my honest, they are such a well-coached team. When you watch them, I can pinpoint exactly what they are doing in build-up, out of possession, in possession, in transition. I can literally pinpoint everything. And one thing that stands out to me, guys, is Bournemouth is the 5th lowest team in the Premier League in terms of possession, because they are happy to allow the opponent to have the ball. And today they did something similar with Newcastle throughout the game, where they allow Newcastle to have the ball and they press the hell out of their backline. Pressing system under this manager in terms of against the opponent is accurate. The way that they are able to exploit the press in a positive way, by the way, it causes errors for the opponent, and it happened quite a few times today for Newcastle. Like I said, they're missing 9 senior players and get a 4-1 win at St James's Park. Another performer that stood out to me, none other than 19-year-old centre-back Howson. What a £12 million, guys. And I watch Juventus right now, and they could do with a centre-back just like him. I don't know why they sold him for so cheap, but phenomenal scouting from Bournemouth. And the reason why I'm saying that he stood out to me, because not just him, but also Zabani, the reason why they stood out to me is because Alexander Isak came into this game having scored 8 on the bounce. 8 Premier League games in a row he scored in flying form for a striker. And they forced him to take no shots from open play throughout 90 minutes. I think the only shot that he actually had was the free kick on the edge of the box, which it hit the wall and went out for a corner. But they absolutely kept him quiet today. Now, in those central spaces, they had him kind of on lock. I don't want to say it because I don't want to sound too reactionary, but I genuinely feel like defensively they had him on lock. They forced him to go out to the wide channels. And if you watch Isak, you know that he's a player that can come deep, link up the play. He's able to dribble on the ball, and he can go out wide as well. And that's what he was kind of leaning more towards today, going out wide, dropping deep to link up, because he could not do anything in terms of going up against 2 centre-backs in Bournemouth's backline. Another player that I feel like did a phenomenal job, and it's going to go under the radar because, like I said, the hat-trick and the goals are kind of what everybody's going to talk about, is Cook. He had Lewis Hall and Gordon darting up that side consistently, and he was able to put in a shift to a point where Gordon was actually going central. I saw him on the right-hand channels at some point. I feel like both fullbacks as well, Milos Kerkez, what an absolute rocket of a goal. Just sees the goal, he sees the opening. Step over, bam, left foot. I watch left backs at other teams and I just think, oh my god, as a Man United fan, what I would do to have a left back like that in my team. But across the entire starting 11 for Bournemouth, there's no one I can heavily criticise because everybody put in a great performance. Like I said, Kluivert's going to steal the headlines, but that midfield battle, I have to speak about that midfield battle between Bournemouth and Newcastle, because when I watched Joelinton, in terms of physically, I feel like a lot of teams could do with a Joelinton in their team. He's a physical monster, but I feel like he gets away with so much in the Premier League with officiating in comparison to maybe other midfielders. Adams and Christie up against Joelinton, up against Bruno Guimaraes, up against Tonali today. I think they did a phenomenal job. And just quickly on the physicality and, you know, the athleticism of the midfield for Newcastle, that is their bread and butter. So I was really impressed to see Bournemouth be able to outperform them in that particular area. The physicality, every second ball, every duel they were putting a foot in. I was really impressed by that, and that is the kind of things for me that win you games. Of course, putting the ball in the back of the net wins you games as well, but those are the dying situations that you have to come out on top, and Bournemouth were able to do that. Now, I don't think it completely rains on Newcastle's parade, because that's just their first loss in quite some time, but Newcastle will probably continue to pick up form. But today it showed a well-oiled team in terms of transitional defense, going forward, pressing, having the backline kind of cause a nuisance for the striker. When you nullify the striker and you try and nullify the wide players, then you force everything quite centrally, and then you go for the physical battles centrally. That's how you can win games. Now, like I said, Bournemouth have the 5th lowest possession in the league. They're happy to allow the opponent to kind of just have the ball because they know that they can win it back. That kind of tactic might not work at every team. I feel like with Bournemouth, the fans are happy to watch that. But at Manchester United, or maybe like one of the top 6 like Liverpool or City or Arsenal, I don't think fans would be happy to allow their team to play like that. So playing style is another big thing. Iraola, what he's doing with Bournemouth is phenomenal, but will it always be the kind of best style of football for a big team? Because people always kind of say, why has he not moved on to get a big coaching job? But what he's doing with Bournemouth right now is phenomenal. Like I said, they're comfortably within that top 6, top 7 race. I think they're on an 11-game streak in the Premier League right now, comfortably winning or drawing games. They haven't lost for 11 games. And today they just absolutely humiliate Newcastle. Arsenal now have to be near enough to perfect for the remaining 16 or so games of the Premier League campaign if they really want to go on and win the trophy. 2-0 up at home to Aston Villa, and they walk away with 1 point. Ollie Watkins with a dagger of a goal to equalise for them. Now, I'm not going to lie, they have to be perfect because there's still some big matches coming up for them. The third to last game is Liverpool away from home. That is a big game. They still have Manchester City to play, Chelsea and Manchester United in 2 consecutive weeks in March. They still got Nottingham Forest as well, so they have to be near enough to perfect. Today, the biggest difference is that Liverpool were able to break the deadlock against Brentford, and then Arsenal dropped points. But as always, we're going to talk about it. So let's start with this. Lewis Skelly, for me, what a player. I mentioned him in the midweek, but wow, what the way he locked up Morgan Rogers. I hate, by the way, using the term locked up, but the way that he locked up Morgan Rogers today on that far side left him with absolutely nothing to do in the game. Aside from the fact that obviously Arsenal did dominate possession, listen to these stats, guys. Morgan Rogers lost the most duels in the game in terms of 9. He had 27 touches in the entire game with a 50% pass accuracy, only 5 passes throughout the game. That's poor for someone who you expect to influence the game. Now, Ollie Watkins up top, like I said, in the first half, I'm not going to lie, Arsenal were playing quite high, and in those little countering moments, I felt like Aston Villa could have got something, but he was up there by himself, and I don't know if Duran was starting, would it have been different, but for me, all eyes are on Arsenal after this game, because I think in terms of the title contending teams, I actually think Arsenal, outside of Saka, have one of the worst front lines in terms of goal creation, chance creation, and being able to create a goal in the dying minutes when you are in dire need of one. I just don't feel confident in that. Arsenal fans, let me know if you agree. Now, Trossard for me had a good game in that wide channel, 2 assists, but both assists, the way that he creates it for me is just phenomenal. He's able to do that little deliberate, hesitant kind of dribble to get onto his left foot after that, and then just hammer across a ball in accurately. That's the most important thing. Kai Havertz with a great finish as well, and Martinelli with a top finish as well. But for me, the biggest kind of difference makers is that when you're 2-0 up, firstly, at home, you should be able to comfortably see the game out. Mikel Merino, for that first goal that Tielemans scored, listen, Luca Digne put in a phenomenal ball. Like, I don't know what was better, the ball in from him or the ball in from Matty Cash for the second goal, especially because it's on Matty Cash's weaker foot. But Mikel Merino is just not doing enough there. 6'3" to get caught out by one of the smaller players on the pitch who makes a great kind of diagonal run across the box, and he's just caught out in no man's land. That's just not good enough in my opinion. And then the second goal, a great ball in, like I said, from Matty Cash on his weaker foot. Kai Havertz just kind of leaves it. I don't know if he felt like it was kind of so high up that it's probably going out. And also, no one's paying attention to Ollie Watkins at the far post. Like, no one is paying attention. And these are the key moments for me that differentiate a title winning team versus a title contending team. Now, we are in the January transfer window. I don't even know if Arsenal are going to go out and buy a player. Another game, I feel like Odegaard was slightly underwhelming. It's only when they went 2-2 down that really they stepped on the gas and really tried to get a goal. Of course, everyone's going to talk about that disallowed goal, but it hits his hand, guys. It's literally clear as day. It hits his hand. So I don't know what people are trying to argue at that point. But the title race in a weekend where Liverpool nearly dropped points, and the only thing Arsenal could do after that Brentford-Liverpool game is stay on Liverpool's necks. They are now 6 points off of top. Liverpool have a game in hand, and like I said, Arsenal have to be near enough to perfection for the rest of the 16 games, especially when they've got these big games still to come against Manchester City, against Nottingham Forest, against Chelsea, against Arsenal, and then that third to last game against Liverpool at Anfield. That is going to be a massive game. Well, that's if we get towards the end of the season and there's still a title race to talk about. But today, Arsenal fans, I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm sure you must feel disappointed to drop those points from a winning position. But that's the Premier League roundup for this weekend. Obviously, we still have a couple of games to go on Sunday. Manchester United taking on Fulham, obviously Ipswich versus Manchester City, etc, etc. But listen, guys, if you are enjoying these kind of roundups, if you want individual videos for individual teams, let me know down below in the comments section. Be sure to hit the like button and do subscribe if you're new here.